6. Let me bring you up to date on our top story tonight. The gunman who fired a shot at Prince Charles in Sydney today with a starting pistol is due to appear in court tomorrow in Australia, charged with attacking an internationally protected person and the use of a firearm. He's been named as university student David Kang, who's 23, of Hunters Hill in Sydney, and he's going to be charged with 6 offences in connection with the attack on the Prince of Wales. Apparently the maximum sentence for the offences could be some years in prison, but there is some doubt too about Kang's mental fitness. We have in the studio now a bodyguard instructor, Jim Short, from the International Bodyguard Association, who joined us earlier today and has been looking at some of the film as we saw it coming in from Sydney, the shots of Prince Charles, of his attacker. We'll see it in a moment or two. Let's see it now, in fact, and we'll come to you and ask you what you think about it. These are pictures of Colin Trimming coming between Prince Charles and David Kang, who fired a pistol at Prince Charles at short range. The pistol was loaded with blanks. As you can see, Prince Charles's bodyguards and the Australian police force came quickly to take the young man away from Prince Charles, but Prince Charles himself was left standing on the stage with only his bodyguard between him and the rest of the audience. Jim Short, what's your initial view on that, given your years of experience in this business?
What was done was correct. Was he actually shoulder charged the prince to get him out of the way of out of the line of fire. Unfortunately, in many places the bodyguards are still taught to try and grab the VIP and wrestle him to the ground or whatever. He did the correct thing.
Did he?
Knocked the VIP out of the way. The problem was one of timing. Obviously, he seems to react only when the attacker gets up on the stage and is visible. Mm-hmm. When the shots were going off, as you can see, there was no reaction. The prince looked around, but there was no reaction.
Was that because the bodyguard was off? He was obviously off stage when this happened. Should he have been closer to him? Should he have been standing actually next to him?
As the prince moves to the podium, he actually passes in front of the bodyguard. You see the bodyguard there to one side. Mm-hmm. One of the problems that bodyguards have, particularly sort of police bodyguards, is that you're caught between sort of 2 very large and powerful stools. One is the desire of the royal family not to have obvious security. Bodyguards are often treated like children, seen but not heard. Mm-hmm. The other side is when you're in a visiting country, you're very much under the sort of the dictates of the security arrangements there. I would have thought that a line of Australian protection officers along the front of the stage, you'll often see this with President Reagan, that there will be a minimum of 2, maximum of 20 bodyguards lined up along the front of the stage, especially when the VIP, Prince Charles in this case, is raised above the heads of the
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but I mean, from looking at that picture there, any child would say, that if say it was well thought out, say the assassin had put a decoy in there in the form of this young man who was firing the shots, say he missed, and there was someone else in the audience waiting to take a shot at Prince Charles. I mean, he had no protection whatsoever.
You're correct. The protection officers did the correct thing in as much as they knocked the prince out of the way, perhaps not far enough. What should have really happened is the prince should have been pushed to the floor, so he was no longer a target. When you do grab the prince, if you grab the prince and rushed him off stage, and indeed you're totally correct, there could have been other attackers. That's always viewed in the scenario that there's a decoy or more than one attacker. In the Reagan case, they grabbed the president, they rushed him towards the limousine, and in rushing him, he was wounded. The round ricocheted off the limousine armoured window and caught the president 2 inches from the heart.
Well, it was probably bad luck too, wasn't it? Look, you've got here a lethal weapon, and I gather that these are real bullets. Now, what have you brought in to show us today?
Well, primarily, most protection officers prefer to use, for example, revolvers. This is a small 38 Smith & Wesson, unloaded, with these types of rounds. The problem often is getting the weapon out in time. You may have it in the shoulder holster, you may have it on the belt, but as you saw, the reaction time there, and the case of Reagan, for example, no weapons were produced until the attacker was down. In fact, McCarthy, the agent concerned in the Reagan case, literally took him down by going through the air and dropping him. No weapons by the bodyguards of the police were produced. One of the ways around it, and we've used this actually on details, is you saw that many of the people actually on the stage there had attaché cases. This enables you actually to have, without the weapon being visible and upsetting people, you actually can have the weapon to hand.
Who do you protect? I mean, your men, who do they go and protect?
Well, the International Bodyguard Association, I mean, we've been going now since 1957. We are in 25 countries, and our bodyguards protect everyone from royal, presidential, diplomatic, right the way through to business executives and even celebrities.
I see. Now this, what is this? This looks
well, this is another
pretty
solution.
harmless on the surface.
Indeed, but I mean, if you can take it in your left hand,
Yes.
you have a ballistic shield that will protect you against low-velocity weapons.
I see.
That's
But that's fine if if you're standing close to the man you're protecting. It's a different thing entirely if you're miles away, isn't it?
Indeed, the bottom line really is the skills.
Yes.
And the bodyguard skills. I mean, a good bodyguard actually goes through quite an extensive education that covers everything from the management of threat through escort, through he learns paramedicine to do with ballistic injury, protective driving, improvised explosive device, search and recognition. I mean, there's a whole range of skills that the bodyguard has to go through.
I mean, that's absolutely fine, but if you're lulled into a sense of false security, which presumably some people can be, if everything's going well, and you're not, casing the crowd. I mean, someone should have been casing the crowd to see that young man pull out the pistol in the first place before it fired two shots.
Totally correct. Escort is primarily about observation. Observation, so you can't intervene unless you can see. I mean, one of the things I've consistently heard about this particular incident is people turning around and say, well, the royal family, it doesn't matter. The prince's uncle was murdered by terrorists. You've already brought to attention the case where another blank pistol was used against his mother. There was a live weapon used against his sister. There have been numerous sort of attempts through packages sent through the post, explosive packages. His grandmother, another relationship, but one of his relations, Queen Victoria, was attacked on no less than 8 occasions. But there's this continuing attitude that emanates primarily from the palace, is that we can't let security get in the way, even if it costs lives.
On that note, Jim Short, thank you very much indeed.